Hey guys, it's JCube, and in this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do some Rubik's Cube finger tricks. Now what are Rubik's Cube finger tricks? Well, they're certainly not this. Instead, it looks something a little more like this. Finger tricks are a certain way of turning the cube so that you can maximize your efficiency in your solves. If you're an advanced or intermediate cuber and you're really looking to cut down on your solving times, then finger tricks just might be what you're looking for. As beginners, we can sometimes build bad habits of how we turn the cube. For example, turning an entire layer with your hand instead of just your fingers. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys some of the best tips I know on how to do finger tricks. Alright, so to get started, a general rule of thumb with finger tricks is that you'd like to restrict your movement as much as possible. So what do I mean by this? I don't mean that you shouldn't be moving your hands, but rather you want to stay close to this natural position as much as possible, this kind of natural resting state of holding your Rubik's Cube. Now, sometimes you will have to do something known as regrips, and this is when you slightly change your grip, for example, like this, to do R moves, for example, or to do L moves, or to do F moves, or to do M moves, where you might have to slightly regrip either your left or right hand. It's just a matter of preference. I personally do M moves with my left hand. So regrips are essentially when you kind of have to move away from this position, and it's completely fine. Don't think that regrips are bad in any way, unless it's something like this. Regrips are definitely useful and can be incorporated into your algorithms as well. Now, arguably the most important finger trick tip that I can give is on how you turn the U layer. So, as I mentioned earlier, you can just do U and U prime and U2 moves with your fingers. And that's pretty easy enough. To do a U, you do this. To do a U prime, take your left finger and you do this. However, what if there's a U2? Well, you might think, okay, why don't you do this or this? Well, there's actually a better way of doing this. This isn't bad, but we can do even better. If we take our index and middle finger, then we can use both of them to kind of follow one after the other to do a U2. This is sometimes called a U2 flick, because you're kind of flicking the top layer to do a U2. And this is slightly more efficient than doing this. And it's similar for D moves. So depending on which finger you do your D moves, it will differ, but I think generally speaking, most cubers do D moves with their ring finger. So to do a D, for example, you take your left ring finger and you do this, and you take your right ring finger for D primes. Now, again, what if you want to do a D2? Well, you've got two fingers ready at the bottom to do a D2 flick. So ring finger, pinky, D2 flicks. And so these U2 and D2 flicks are quite important to implement into your algorithms. And I think that this just comes with a little bit of practice and being mindful of trying to use it in your solves. And the same goes for M moves, and you can actually do M2 flicks as well. So I'm going to demonstrate with my left hand, but you could also do it with your right hand if you do it with your right hand. But I generally turn the middle layer with my left ring finger. So something like that. And if I want to do an M2, actually, I can use my ring and middle finger to go ring finger, middle finger, and just kind of follow them one after another and flick the Rubik's Cube. And doing M2 flicks are much quicker than if I were to kind of just repeat this. And it's also just a little bit choppy and kind of unpleasant to do. You'll tire your one finger out there. And so if you do flicks for U2, D2, M2, your solves will get much more efficient and less tiring for your fingers. Now, taking a step back to the U moves for a second, there's an interesting finger trick with the U moves that you can do where you don't use your right hand to do U moves, or you don't use your left hand to do U prime moves. Now let me explain. So usually you might do U moves with your right hand, like this, with your right index finger, but you could also do U moves by pushing with your left index finger, like this. Now, here we have the T permutation, and this is an algorithm in which I use that finger trick. So here, so the algorithm starts with an R, and then I go U with my left index finger to do the algorithm actually. So there's a lot of wiggle room when it comes to finger tricks, and there's no strict best method for finger tricks. Everyone has slightly different turning styles, and it's important that you develop your own as well. Find out what's comfortable for you, what's not as tiring for your hands, and what seems to get you the fastest times. But also, try and notice if there's some finger tricks in your turning style that seems to be slightly inefficient. Are you doing 2 moves with 1 finger when you could do it with a flick and slightly quicker? Or are you regripping way too much, for example? These are examples of some bad habits that can build over time, and the earlier you find them, the sooner you can try and implement better finger tricks. So I hope that this video gave you an understanding of what finger tricks are, and I hope that you'll be on your way to develop your own best and efficient turning style. Now, right before I go, I have a few announcements. I'll be rebooting the Cuber show, which you can check out on my channel. It's been quite a while, I think a couple years, since I've made Cuber show episodes, and so I'll be getting back into those. And I'll be starting a new 3x3 tutorial series to supplement my already existing one. So for example, I'll make individual videos on cross, first layer, second layer, etc. for the beginner's method tutorial, and to extra supplement my advanced tutorial, for example, I will be creating extra cross tips videos as well as F12 tips videos. This way, if what I explained in that video didn't quite make sense to you, then in the description I'll have links to some other videos of mine that go a bit more in depth or expand upon what I mentioned in that video. But that's all I've got for today, so stay on the lookout for those 2 new kind of series coming up, and I'll see you guys next time.